Hi. We human beings, we can be puzzling sometimes. We're made up of lots of puzzle pieces, and some of them look like they fit, and others we don't look like they should fit. But all the pieces go together to making a whole person. Seemingly opposite puzzle pieces can be called vices and virtues. They look different. Now we can use different names for those things like strengths and weaknesses and or bad habits and good habits, or things we like about ourselves and things we don't like about ourselves, presentable attributes and not so presentable attributes, things we're embarrassed about and things we're proud of, etc. But for for today, I'm going to use the terms vices and virtues to mean all of that, to refer to all of that. As human beings, we can't get away from the fact that we're a mixed bag of vices and virtues. And we have to figure out what to do with both of those. Now, our virtues usually don't cause us many problems. They're kind of like our best buddies. They help us succeed in life, and we're proud of them, and they help us have good relationships. We like to show them off, exhibit them, and they can make us popular in a lot of ways. And in traditional religious thinking, virtues are what gets us into heaven. Now, for example, the virtue of being efficient can help us get ahead in our job. It's a good thing we like. Or the virtue of being a good listener. That can invite people in, can attract other people into relationship. And we like that too. Our virtues are what we use to show to the world, look, this is who I am. Now, our vices, on the other hand, they cause us problems. We don't like them. Instead of treating them like a best friend, we often treat them as a crazy, embarrassing family member that we keep locked in the basement. Our vices embarrass us, and they invite ridicule and criticism from others when others see them. And they can endanger our physical and mental health and can damage or end relationships. And in traditional religious thinking, vices are what gets us into hell. So what we usually do is we try to get rid of our vices in some way. We may say that with our strong will, we can eliminate the effects of any vice we might have. Like when a person says, well, I'm simply going to eat less to lose weight. My will is strong enough. Or an alcoholic says, I'm just going to stop at one drink. My will is strong enough. But that doesn't work. That's really a denial of having the vice in the first place. Or we might pretend that we don't have the vice, or push it down so far in our consciousness that we don't have to think about it. But that's like pretending we don't have a left hand, for example. We can't get away from it. And the vice pops up in our lives when we least expect it because we're not paying attention to it and seeing where it's at. Now, when these strategies to try to get rid of vices don't work, and we find that our vices are persistent as ever, we're likely to recriminate ourselves and blame ourselves for being, quote, bad. This leads to a war within ourselves and the good part of ourselves, fighting against the bad part of ourselves. And since there's really no way to get rid of half of ourselves, the war is never ending. We're forever battling ourselves. And this can tear us apart. This can lead to depression. It can lead to anxiety, self-loathing, and even suicide. And it also leads to us treating others in the same way. Looking at them and fighting the bad in them. Now, there are some ways to end or lessen this war within ourselves and make life more pleasant for ourselves. First of all, we have to honestly admit that we have vices and weaknesses which can control our actions if left unchecked or ignored. That's the first step in the 12-step process of Alcoholics Anonymous, to admit that we are powerless over our problem. And then we also need to recognize that being a mixture of vices and virtues is a normal fact of reality. It's neither good nor bad, it's just us. That's just the way we are. This can kind of relieve us of the temptation to be ashamed of ourselves, to blame ourselves, and to cover up or deny our weaknesses. Then we need to find ways of keeping track of any particular vice. And this means figure out when, where, and in what circumstance it's likely to crop up and affect our actions, and what it looks like when it does, to be aware of it. It also means being familiar with my favorite ways of not wanting to pay attention to it, of ignoring it, or whatever. Others can help us in this work. Asking others to help us be aware of our vices can help us stay grounded in doing this work. If we can keep an eye on any particular vice to see where it's at, what's happening with it, rather than ignoring or denying it, we can keep it from unexpectedly controlling our actions. And this frees us up to make choices that work better for ourselves and others. It also helps us to be more forgiving and compassionate with others because we know that they're struggling in the same way we are. They're in the same boat as us. And finally, we have to trust that God's infinite forgiveness will be there when we fail, when our vices get the best of us, and that God's going to be giving us the wherewithal, the strength to accentuate our many virtues and reduce the effects of our vices in our lives. As with anything, we can't do it alone. So I hope some of this has been helpful in kind of figure out what to do with vices and virtues and to accept ourselves as a mixed bag and to know that we're not slaves to our vices. But in doing this work, we can be free to choose to be the people God created us to be.